Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to Thursday at Namaste. Kind of rhymes. Thursday at Namaste. Yeah. Raj just said, just like Wednesday and Friday kind of rhyme. Well, maybe that's a lesson in and of itself, that it all rhymes. We all are alike. We all are, whatever. I think I'm stretching already. Stretching to find something where it is not, which is a whole nother teaching. We could, never mind. Anyways, good to be with all of you. I'm looking into the back here to see what the review lessons are. I'm not a body, I am free, for I am still as God created me, and I am the holy, perfect Son of God himself. I am the holy, perfect child of God, complete and healed and whole. That seems to go perfectly with today's lesson, because what we're looking at here is how that I am current draws us and pulls us along, whether we're aware of it or not, whether we admit it or not, whether we're in the dream or wide awake. We're still in that river of consciousness being pulled effortlessly into that ocean of infinite grace. And it's really now just about opening up our eyes and seeing who and where we've always been, and supporting one another, having our mighty companions see that with us, join in that, and yeah, that's it. It's like we can talk about it from so many different angles, but it really just comes down to being willing to receive. I think I'm just sort of feeling that talking about it, even in the way that we are here, using words and concepts and all the beautiful ways that we express this, aren't anything unless we're willing to receive, unless we're willing to give up the shadow and all of the things that we thought that it gave to us in order to receive that truth that has always been ours. And that's what we're going to practice today, being willing to receive. So, once again, I am the Holy Son of God himself. That, I think, is going to be the perfect lead-in. So, let's just begin by sharing today's lesson from this little thing I'm working on, which I've been having so much fun with. And this is going to be talking about the evidence that you have used to try to prove in your mind that you are right and God is wrong. The evidence of separation. Everything that you see in the world appears to proclaim that you're right, that you're vulnerable, that you're weak, that you're separate, that you're alone. And yet what we're being asked to do is to look through and past all that evidence and to realize that evidence that you see in a dream has no real effect. You could be in a dream tonight or last night and experience all kinds of evidence that is seeking to prove something or another, but does that make it true? It's true only in the dream. The moment you wake up from the dream, you realize there was never any truth at all. And the same thing is true here. The evidence of your separation appears very logically to conclude and to prove that you are vulnerable, separate, sinful, weak, whatever it may be. But only in the dream, and not even then, because even then it's only in your mind. And the moment you just allow it to be replaced by the grace and the holiness and the love and the light that you truly are, in that moment do you realize and open up your eyes and wake up. So let's talk about that evidence. It says, no matter what the evidence shows you, I am everywhere and in everyone. The so-called evidence of separation seems to be in your mind, but it is not in my mind. It's not in my mind. Likewise, because it is not in my mind, it's also not in your mind. As I said before, the what seems to be the evidence, the so-called evidence, because it's not in the mind of all that is. It's not really even in your mind. That's a tricky one, because how can it be seen at all if it's not really in your mind? And the truth is, there's no answer. It's not a question that can be answered, because, oh, I guess the closest we could come would be to say anything that's imagined but is not supported by what is real can never have true effect. It cannot have any real effect. You can only imagine that it has an effect. Once again, we open up our eyes, we choose to see what is real, what is true, what is whole, and all of those effects disappear. Okay, to continue on. The question then becomes, why do you seem to see what cannot actually be seen? Why do you seem to see what actually cannot be seen? If you can honestly answer this question, and do so joyfully, by the way, there will be nothing left binding you to this world. I could give you the answer, but that would deprive you of realizing that you already know the answer. Simply put, you are the answer. Until now, you've chosen to believe that you are the question, but never the answer. Everything seems questionable in your mind, including and especially you. Everything seems questionable in your mind, including and especially you. You question your own reality. You even question your own unreality. No wonder you're so confused. But now, at last, a light has dawned in your mind, and you are able to consider what I am trying to tell you. Finally, your consideration alone is enough to shake you from your sleep. Just being willing to consider the possibility that this is true is enough to begin to shake you. Just like a parent in the morning gently shaking you, saying, it's time to get up. You have to get ready for school. Once again, your consideration is enough to shake you from your sleep, but consider it honestly. Otherwise, you will fall deeper into the dream. Resist the urge to make yourself special, because that is the primary reason you are sleeping. Don't begin to open up your eyes and think, wow, look how special I am. I'm now the enlightened one. I'm now the one who can go around and teach everybody else who's still asleep. That's the surest way to fall back even deeper into the dream. Once again, resist the urge to make yourself special, because that is the primary reason for your sleeping. That which is whole cannot be special, except totally special. That's an interesting one. But total specialness brings about the complete undoing of all error and all illusions. If everything is totally special, then everything has risen to the same level as what we might call the Christ. It would be like realizing that everything that you perceive is the same, but to realize that it's the same in grace. The ego looks at that idea, and then it will search out what it believes to be the lowest of that equation. Let's say a homeless drug addict on the street. It will look to that and say, oh, you mean we're all the same as that? That's its solution. It looks to the lowest. And the reason it does that is because you're going to immediately fight that and say, no, I'm not the same as that. Okay, there went total specialness out the window. But what the soul does, the soul doesn't look at the lowest, it looks at the highest. It looks at the full expression of Christ consciousness and says, no, you're the same as that. And of course, we're willing to accept that total specialness. We're willing to say yes to being the same as the Christ. Does that make sense? That's the difference between the ego's version of specialness or sameness and your soul's idea. This is the door you find yourself standing in front of. All you need to do is to turn the handle and step inside. So, each and every single one of us, we find ourselves standing here at that door, which means you're ready. That's just another way of saying that you're totally ready for this. You don't need anything else. You don't need to do anything else or learn anything. No more books. If you don't want to read any more books, you can throw them all away. You're standing at the door. No more preparation is needed. All that's required is to turn the handle. You're standing there. So why hesitate? Why not step inside? Oh, and then the other thing that you have to be careful of, there's going to, for many of us, be this temptation. Let's say that you're standing in front of that door. Let's say that that is the door to heaven. It sort of starts off like a joke. Two men are standing in front of a door. And you open up that door and you see this most amazing experience. And you see people more joyful than ever experienced, and sights that you could never even have imagined before. And you step in and you look around and you realize this is heaven. And then you step back out, close the door again, and then you say to everyone behind you, okay, I'm going to be the one to tell you about this now. I'll be the one to explain everything that's behind that door. Don't do that. Just stay. They're right behind you. Don't step out and become the special one who now gets to be the interpreter of this experience or this vision of heaven. Just be there, because your willingness to be there is the acceptance of all of us to be there, because there's only one of us stepping through that door. The question is, will you choose that? Don't just step one foot in and then step back out. Enter in wholly, and then you will realize how holy you are. I couldn't resist it. I'm sorry. I hope that makes sense. You know, these things that we speak about and share, they're like little just flashes of light that go off in our minds. Maybe, and it will be different for, all of us. Bruce may have one flash and it will illumine just for an instant, that holy instant where everything is seen clearly. Or Bethel, it'll be another one. But the idea is not to try to claim it or to repeat it, just to be willing in that instant to become aware of what you have seen, and to let that be enough to show you that there is a whole world that you have denied yourself that is waiting for you to realize. Those little flashes of light. It could be one thing that you heard today that just flashes inside your mind. All I can say is, whatever it is, follow that. Don't hold back. And so, we are going to now turn to our sister Vicki. Vicki, are you out there today? There she is. Hello,
I'm
Victoria.
Here, I'm here.
I see you were
I'm
in your
here.
car today.
Yes, I am. And I love what you're saying. I really am happy that this isn't a teaching, but an experience you guide us all to, and ask you to join you in. And today, I had a great experience yesterday because, I was flapping around and I had to, stop, drop, and pray. And the truth is, the way that we stay, or that I'm finding every day, and every day, even though it's the same description, it's new. The way to stay with the door open and us walking through that door into light, into holiness, is simply, while we're here, to keep our eye on the eternal. And that's where the trick is, because if we have a holy instant and we move into that space, well, we know it and we're filled with it. But the consistency of living here still in a body and time is a focus. Like you said yesterday, where do you put your attention? If our attention stays on the eternal, then we stay out of the way, because the willingness to receive the grace that is always given, that current that we can glide in rather than bump around in, means that we have to stay out of the way with our attention. So I saw yesterday I got in the way, and that's why I was flapping around. I saw that I wasn't trusting the gliding, and I was trying to push the river. I was trying to push in a direction because I had a goal. I saw, oh, the littlest goal that I think I have an option or a way to get to is what takes my eye off the eternal flow, the Holy Spirit's plan, and all of a sudden I'm trying to take back control. So there was a situation that I thought I knew a better way for myself, and I tried to get in the way, literally, by whatever, saying it or suggesting it or something. And it made me feel guilty. So the guilt is what was flapping my own wings. It's what gets us out of the flow. And of course, the guilt is always the same ontological guilt of leaving heaven, but it shows up in a very specific way. That's what is where we think we are. Because if I thought I had an answer to a timely problem, that's the problem that I gave.
Come on. She's frozen here, but not up here.
Values, but maybe you can't. Can you hear me now, Jimmy?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay. So the willingness to receive and keep our eye on the eternal is the willingness to pay attention, to stay out of the way of our own, what we think of as our best interests, in trying to get ourselves there. No different than Jesus says, healed teacher, a healed mind does not plan. Planning is a way of getting in the way. A plan or some kind of solution solving, or, and I'm not saying inspiration. When we're inspired, we listen, learn, and do and follow the inspiration. But when we are trying to solve something that we think of as troublesome, then we can be sure we will get in the way of the natural flow of grace that has everything in its best interest for everyone. So as soon as I see a situation where I think I know the answer, then I've got my mind back in judgment with a goal outside of myself, rather than keeping my eye on the eternal, knowing that the full answer is what you said, is who I am. And all I have to do is rest in that and let the flow unfold through and around me, and then recognize the step I'm to take. So that's the difference between recognizing and stepping where we're guided by inspiration into a natural unfoldment of grace, or having a goal of my own, which immediately takes me out of the eternal, puts me back into an identity of separation. So in order to be willing to receive, we have to keep our mind on the spirit, on what's eternal in ourselves and in one another. And the goal is to stay in that presence and not try to jump out. It's like jumping out of a movie script and trying to rewrite it again quickly before they play it out on stage. So I could see it right away, and laugh at myself, and maybe that's a good sign, and say, oh gosh, it's so subtle, like the ego so quickly can slip in any little side crack or back door. But then the gift is, it's not a big deal. The only big deal is when we suffer ourselves unnecessarily. And when we can take the correction quickly, then we again hold that vision that the eternal is our reality, and that's the reality we share in safety and holiness and in being. And that's the gift of example that we give one another. So if we're going to step through the door and still be here in bodies, if I can keep my eye on the invisible, on the eternal, in myself, in my brothers, and everything around me, and look at it with wonder and with welcome, how is the greater plan going to unfold through this corona, through this move, through this situation, through everything? And enjoy it, because when we enjoy it, we stay gliding and in that open, receptive state of willing to receive. So I hope that wasn't too much around the bush, but it was practical. Thanks, honey.
It was beautiful. Thank you, Vicki. You know, it's funny how that beautiful analogy that Christina gave us probably a week ago now of the condor finding that current and just resting in the current and soaring above the world, as opposed to flapping the wings, and how we have been noticing all the different ways that we get out of that current and then have to start flapping. And as you said today, Vicki, it really comes down to me thinking that I know better. That's when I start flapping. I think I know how to do this better, so I'm going to get out of the current now, and I'm going to start flapping. And the truth is, we can never know better than just being in that current, which knows where we need to go, knows where we need to be, knows the destination, and will take us there effortlessly. But the moment I say, no, I have a better idea, I come out of the current, I begin flapping again. But if we could just rest in that current and just allow it to take us. We say that over and over in different ways. Just allow it to take us, because it knows the current, which is who you really are, the presence of grace within you, knows where the destination is, knows who you are, knows what everything is, much more than I can know when I start flapping my wings and exerting effort to try and get somewhere that I've always been. So there you go.